Hello, assalamu alaikum, ji anu, pakhera gale, ni hama, chune shume, washmale, ohag, Zaimis, Guten Morgen. Hi, hugs and hellos to everybody who's tuned into PT1 and watching World this morning, alongside Shazad Khan and Maha Maktoum. Hello, Maha, how are you?
I'm very good today, Shazad. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And Shazad, how are you today?
I'm absolutely
cold,
perfect.
huh?
I'm absolutely perfect. I'm just trying to fit into this jacket. I don't know whose jacket this is. Well, I do know. But earlier in the morning when I showed up, so I had this punk rock t-shirt on me and my producer was like, oh, dude, we're talking about something very different. Look what you've done. And I was like, man, come on, at times your wives can be sleeping or probably your clothes might not be ironed. So you probably have to just pick on whatever is right in front of you. That's what I did.
So basically what happened was that when we were sent our brief, Shazad didn't read it properly and he didn't, kind of comprehend it.
So it's not like that.
No, I'm trying to link it, Shazad. You're reading my link. So basically what we're going to be talking about is the importance of reading today. In a culture where there's so many advancements in technology, you have the Kindle, you have everything like that. It's very important that we realize the importance of reading books.
Yeah.
And there's so much happening around the studio right now. But anyway, so we're going to be talking about what's happening in regards to book reading. What's happening on ground level? Are schools promoting it? Are our parents promoting it? Are our parents still reading us bedtime stories at night? Or are they giving us a laptop to play with? What's happening?
I think what's probably happening over here in the cities is that kids have got their own tablets and they love to watch cartoons, and I think parents are probably hooked onto their telephones or cell phones as well. But other than that, I think I've always been in love with reading somebody else's t-shirts. Because there are people who would wear t-shirts where there's like written so much stuff on it, so I just love reading that. But I don't think that it is going to have an impact on me or anybody else.
I don't think it will make you any cleverer.
Because it's like the 10th guy out of like 20 who's wearing a t-shirt where, there's something written on it.
Okay.
But what about you, Maha? Do you read? Do you have this habit of reading?
I don't have a big habit, but I do read, and I do like reading. But my problem is that I find it very difficult to find books to really get into. When I went away on holiday early in the year, I read such a good book. It was so involving that I'm trying to recreate it, but I can't. So it's also about, do we know which avenues to take? Do we know how to explore our favorite authors, our favorite style of writing? So we're going to be discussing all these things.
And then how to understand it too as well. But then on the other hand, what I wanted to discuss today was that, for example, whenever you travel abroad, half of the time I've seen people on airports or probably, railway stations or wherever they're standing, or if they have like 20 or 25 minutes and they have to wait, they'll always have a book in their hand and then they'll start reading it. Even though if they have like earphones right in their ears and they're listening to music, but they'll read. So what are the benefits of reading? Or, in an era where, there's so much technology going on, is it necessary to say that book reading or just reading?
Exactly. And also one more thing about early habit building of reading. How can it build out and shape our character and our personalities? So to discuss all of these things, we have a wonderful panel of guests. We have been joined by Humaira Waqar. She is an educationist. Assalamu alaikum, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Besides Mrs. Humaira Waqar, we have been joined by Dr. Fakhra Naureen. She is an assistant professor at Government College. Assalamu alaikum, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Besides Dr. Fakhra, we've been joined by Col Naeem Ashraf, who is a writer and an author. Assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us. Besides Col Naeem, we've been joined by Miss Ramsha Ashraf. She is also an educationist. Assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to start with you, Humaira. You were highlighting this point today about specifically on book reading. Why is it so important?
See, initially, whenever a child born, first thing is that to develop the communication, because communication is the basic skill when you get exposed to the world. And while reading book, children are exposed to the wide range of words, and definitely it helps to build up their vocabulary. And ultimately how vocabulary works, while it improves the understanding when you listen, and your pattern for achievement, like you understand, you learn, because when you understand, then your learning has begun. When you learn, definitely it's easy to act upon.
So then why just reading? I mean, we can watch films, we can watch dramas, we can, there's so much to learn visually as well. I mean, obviously reading is a form of visual probably learning, but then when you can watch a film, like a 3-hour film based on the same novel, why do you read a book then? Why do
let's ask Dr. Fakhra for that.
Yeah,
is when we say that we can why to read a book and why not watch a movie, is that visual way only the way to learn? Like, why not read? Reading, you watch, you enjoy and forget, but reading, it remains in your brain, it somehow clicks you vocabulary. And although books, every book cannot be performed or staged or acted in a movie or in the form of dramatic. So there are a few things you need to learn through words and written words.
Exactly, and also so when the books are being translated into movies, you lose the actual magic of the book. But let me go
Imagination.
to exactly.
Imagination part of it.
Col Naeem, why do you're a writer yourself, so why do you think it's still relevant in such a in such an advanced technological era to be reading a book?
Yes. British politician and writer Michael Foot said, and I quote, "Men of power have no time to read, yet people who do not read are unfit for power." There are related benefits, as we were discussing. There are certain physical and clinical benefits to the brain. That's a very important aspect.
Share them with us.
The reading causes mental stimulation. The brain has muscles like all other parts of the body, and muscles need to be exercised to remain strong.
Right.
So mental stimulation is very important, and clinical research has also revealed that the disease like Alzheimer's and dementia, which happens around after 40 or 50 years of age, if mind remains exerciseless. So if mind exercises, and the related also benefits are your expansion of memory, expansion of vocabulary,
Exactly.
and moreover the analytical ability. If you watch a movie or a drama, you just entertain yourself and then forget. But whatever you read, it goes into your brain piece by piece. It occupies a space, and then there are memory pathways. So every bit of knowledge that goes into the brain makes a pathway.
Okay, great.
And also strengthens the previous pathways.
Yeah.
So it basically enhances your capability of memory and then analytical ability.
Okay.
But in our routines, there's so many arguments going on daily basis with your other half, so the stimulation I'm sure is there.
Yeah, but that's to a certain level, actually building on the stimulation.
And those pathways are there as well. Oh, last time we were actually picking up on this issue, so okay, now this time probably we have
But
to
you'll
say
never
this.
advance without bringing more
And
knowledge,
I
right?
think just because of those arguments, you'll end up having Alzheimer's or all of those diseases.
Anyway, Shazad, but let me ask you, Ramsha, is it important, these benefits that Col Naeem just mentioned, do we get those from reading from a book, paperback book, or will we get that from reading maybe something online? Are those benefits going to come anyway, as long as you're reading?
Well, there was this, again, I appreciate all three opinions, and I'm honored to be here to share my opinion. Well, there was this research lately in the New Yorker, and they say that there is this human contact with the paper.
Okay.
Again, there is this contact. When we touch something, it is actually, it gives that memory, or let's say brain receptors, those feelings through which we can experience it in another way. Yes, we can watch a movie, 3-hour movie, and we can kind of digest the entire fact or the entire novel in one go. But what about the experience which is kind of triggered by this feeling that you are a part of that character, or let's say that you assume that you have become this character, and then you start reading or experiencing what the character is experiencing,
Right.
and that is probably why we do not seek or derive that pleasure by watching the novel visually, maybe.
Okay.
And then again, there is this concept that we experience through imagination, different kind of word.
Okay.
But then
I just want to add this. While we are reading, actually we are developing that one-to-one contact.
Okay.
You know, when by watching movies, sometimes you are at one time you're focused on so many things. But when you are alone and that by choice you select a book and then you read, it means that you are directly conversation. Your
obviously,
conversation
one of
is
the
going
characters
on
is Megan
exactly,
Fox. I'll
and
probably
stretching your
forget the story.
imagination. You sometimes you physically feel that what are these characters, you are doing the same.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
if you watch a movie or a dramatized text, you feel no, they are not the characters I've imagined. Like your imagination part, it vanishes away. And secondly, what I was thinking that you can sleep with the book on your chest and you can feel association. You can turn that page and keep it for the next reading. But you
Ownership.
cannot sleep
Yes,
with the laptop or tablet on your.
Well, you could, but it's just not very nice. It's going to be very
could.
stiff.
Everybody's sleeping with them.
Okay.
Probably under the pillow.
Most kids
You know,
sleep
there's
with
so
their
much
cell in
affiliation.
their
Okay, one at a time, guys, one at a
Yeah,
time.
there's so much affiliation to your cell phone that you do not even leave it for a second. I mean,
Even you
I
take it
feel
in
that
the
mobile
washroom.
is my part. I'm sorry.
Okay. Now, okay, so this is the importance of, yes, sir.
Yes, the other benefit is that after, if you are well read, you take informed decisions. You have analytical ability.
Okay.
Exactly.
You know, if I have seen 5 type of apples, then I know which is the best apple. But if I have seen only one apple, for me that is the best apple.
Yeah.
So you take different, read different situations. If you are reading novel, you become part of that. Then you anticipate how it's going to end.
Okay.
Your mind exercises, and
Exactly.
then in real life situations, you take informed and best solution.
Okay, now the thing is, I mean, most people know the benefits of reading. I mean, if
Yeah.
you don't really, I don't understand which rock you've been living under since you've been born. Now, let's talk about what are the causes of the decrease in, you know, kids being reading and going towards that these days. So we'll start with you, Ram, and then we'll move on. And you know, I want
Yeah.
certain reasons, so then we can offer the solutions as well.
And before you start, you know, we should actually bring in the education system as well, where obviously reading all of those science and chemistry and all of those books might not even be considered reading, because what we are talking
No, it's
about is something else.
Yeah, it's personal habit
Yeah.
reading. Yeah.
See, as an educationist, when you observe or sitting with a lot of parents, so one complaint or limitation, usually parent too, they say, my child never sits down. My child is very hyperactive, you know, the activity and the energy level is high. Why? Because if we are giving them as a pastime, we are giving them something on social media, you know. No, any activity is there to bring that peace and calmness and sitting and, you know, increase their concentration span. If the concentration span, ultimately it shows its effect on general improvement of their personality. Where you say that, okay, when you sit, you read, you are on one time you are developing that connectivity, you are focusing, you are more disciplined, and then you are increasing your concentration span, which definitely ultimately help in later stages.
Okay, I know, but what I'm saying, we know the benefits of this. But why are kids not reading as much these days?
Because it's easy access to the social media. You don't want to take pain, you don't want to sit, and what happened that gradually they want to do so many things at what time.
Okay.
But eventually they are reading, even if they are on social media, you have to read all of those
I mean, I read a lot of
statuses,
articles.
you know, whatever is written,
She
yeah.
said that's not called reading. That's statuses. It's not a book or a
But
novel.
vocabulary will definitely increase. I mean,
what- have you
for example, if somebody writes that, you know, I'm bored of this idea, obviously you'll get the word
But
out.
sir,
right?
It's not a
engine-
board, but they'll never like build up on it. They'll use very
Yeah.
simple words. But I want to ask Dr. Fakhra, because you're assistant professor at Government College.
Yeah.
So tell me, what are the students saying to you? Do they have a hobby of reading or not, or habits of reading?
Reading has just vanished away. Like we as Shehzad said, reading means reading books for pleasure, not for information
Yeah.
or for textbooks.
Yeah.
I go to old book shops and I watch people buying books, and they all are textbooks or helping books.
Okay.
They're not books, literature or social sciences books. They won't go for that because it won't pay them back. We've become very utilitarian. What will we get out of this?
Okay,
So
absolutely.
reading books doesn't give you anything radical, like in the form of monetary benefits or some some urgent
Okay.
emergency.
Something like something you can hold and okay, I get it.
I mean, imagine the situation's quite worse. For example, we obviously everybody might know about the bookshop we had in F7. It was
Yes.
one of the very humongous bookshops, the only one.
Even I remember that
and the
from
only
England.
biggest and the largest one in entire Asia. They're downsizing now. They're shutting down. So that means that probably people have actually lost interest in books or what?
I guess they're expanding. I've seen them expanding because they are having textbooks, helping books, registers, and then stickers and markers and all those things. They've become commercial.
Okay, so they're not
become
focused
commercial.
on the actual
Yeah.
pleasure reading. Okay, on that note, we're going to go for a short break, but when we come back, we're going to ask Colonel Naeem and Ramsha what they think are the reasons why we're not reading so much. Stay tuned.
Good morning.
It's good conversation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And for everybody who just tuned into PTY, you watch it well this morning alongside Shazad and Maha. Today we're discussing reading habits, book reading, or in fact, whatever type of reading. For
Just
example,
reading, pleasure
yeah, just
reading.
reading. And obviously for pleasure. But, where we left the conversation was that, for example, those people want to read, obviously there might not be enough of libraries. But now at this very point of conversation, we're talking about why do you think reading went down? Because, there's one more thing which I can recall, and that is that, when my grandmother was alive or when my grandparents were alive, whenever they used to converse in poetry as well,
Yeah.
And they had so much knowledge of different poets and writers that they would actually quote quotations out of those, whatever has been written. Where are we, Kanasab?
Okay, last month I was traveling from Islamabad to Karachi, and it was a flight of about 200 people. There was one Western lady, and all others were Pakistanis, and that lady was reading a book. All other 200 were either gossiping, playing with cell phone, or dozing, or waiting for the tea trolley. In 2011, I traveled from Washington DC to Colorado, Denver, and it was a United Air flight, and there were about 200 passengers. All were reading or doing some puzzle on the newspaper, and we were three Pakistanis who were playing with the phone or listening to the music. I think it is something to do with the culture,
Okay.
our socio-economic fabric, our priorities.
Exactly.
We have gone more materialistic, and we don't have anything to do to please our soul. So that has to be addressed, and maybe from the beginning you have to enforce certain things, to force the students to read and write a book review and make it part of syllabi and grade it.
Yeah, we will talk about it, what we need to do.
We will talk about it,
Yeah.
but it is something to start with the parents.
Okay. We're going to discuss
Because the children, they do not listen much, they watch more.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, exactly. So that's a very another point, issue that they watch kids emulate or copy their parents. What about you, Ramsha? What do you think? Is the
So
reason?
briefly, three factors. I'm glad that somebody touched the socioeconomic
Yeah.
factor. Yes, of course, socioeconomic factor, technological advancements, and linguistic barrier.
Okay.
We have huge economic shifts happening. There is this huge economic barrier because of which students cannot get books. We are not focusing the elite. We need
Yeah,
to
no, we're
keep
talking about
it
everyone
in
else,
our
yeah.
mind. Yes. Then we have linguistic barrier. We have so many languages across, so we do not get hold of everything. And then one major thing that we do not have public reading clubs as it used to be in 1970s or anyone could
80s,
tell.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. So yes.
Okay.
It okay.
So socially, we're not kind of promoting or supporting
We
reading.
do have public libraries in every city, but who goes there? Like government has provided.
It's because of the
facilities,
terror
but
of going to a public place. I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. It's not
it
like
is,
that. But
it
I
is.
will,
Not like a
but I will
part,
agree
that's
to
not
the
like a
economic
part.
part of it, just because the fact that for all of those people who, for whom it's so hard to actually, you know, get like food for 3 times or probably meal for 3 times a day. How
Why
do you
is
think
it-
that
yeah,
they'll
I would
probably
like
invest their money
Agree
on
to
books?
that, but also the okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry,
yeah. Go
no, no,
ahead.
finish your point and then we can move to
But
Humaira.
also that terror part, because my students get their parents' call whenever they visit a public library.
Okay, so the
Parents are
social
so
cultural aspect.
paranoid.
That threat is more in mosque, but they are always filled.
No, no, as in you don't want the kids
They
to be
are
around and
paranoid.
stuff. Okay, that's fine. Now let's move on to Humaira. What would you like to add?
Yeah, I just would like to add that I think it's all about setting your priorities.
Okay.
Sometimes we pinpoint a lot of things, but you know, when there is action program, me as a parent, as a mother, what my experience was that I observed that nowadays my children, they are more towards on social media. Then I just reflect myself what I do. When I picked up the book, suddenly in coming days, I observed that, okay, my daughter is going and buying a book with me. So I think setting priorities is one of the major issues that action speaks louder than word. Everybody knows.
Okay.
So if you just go and rather stop buying all or spending money on your other food and your dresses,
Chocolates.
your dresses and your jewelry, and you go and buy and spend money on the books, definitely your student will go.
Inspiration from parents.
Inspiration from the parents.
Yeah. And then kids do that, right? Because I know that if you have to do as I say, not as I do. I mean, that doesn't work anymore.
Exactly,
So,
But Kanu sahab, you very properly said that, you know, it's the culture as well within the society. But how do you think that even state can probably come up with some initiatives where book reading can be promoted?
Yeah, you know, in National Book Foundation, it's doing a good job, and they have opened a
let us know
mobile,
what they're
a mobile.
doing, yeah.
What are
they
they
have
doing?
opened
Tell
a
us.
mobile library.
Yeah.
great.
And it visits various cities. And but again, you don't find novels of Alif Shafaq or Khalid Hussaini or even Khushwant Singh. They are absent over there as well.
Okay.
And even the novels like Alchemist, they are missing there. So something has to be done which should attract the parents as well as children.
Okay.
One.
Okay.
Two, there are, when we were children, we used to live in Westridge. I was in grade 5, and there used to be a British Council library in Sadr. And they maintained a waiting list. And you go, I still remember, if you, I used to go with my father, and if I didn't find a book, they maintained a list, and then they will call you that your book has arrived and please come. And similarly, when I got commission, I was a lieutenant and Army Central Library. I used to go, and in the basement there used to be archives of newspaper and old books, and I can still feel that fragrance of old books in my nostrils.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, the bookshops are occupying the toys shops, and it is irony that they are turning into shoe shops.
Yeah, everything's
in
kind
Sadr.
of.
So, state responsibility is provide subsidized books
Very nice.
to the, and stock the college and university libraries with the books. That is state responsibility.
Okay.
And similarly, in curricula, we can come later to that.
Again, I have a question. I have
Okay, one
a
second.
counter
Before we move on to the question, I'd like Dr. Fakhra to answer.
I was studying in Namal, and our rector, Brigadier Aziz Ahmed Khan, he narrated an incident. A boy came and said, "Sir, we need new books in the library." And he said, I asked, "How many of them have you read?" They all are new for you. So we don't read. There are so many books, they are just rotten in the libraries, in the shelves of library. We don't go there. And I'm in a government sector. I'm teaching in a government institute, and I've been fighting for this right to access library. The most rude person in the college is appointed as librarian. You're afraid. You don't want to go there. You don't want to, and he will tell you, "Go. Don't waste my time because I'm doing my work." And I never understand. I don't understand what work they are supposed
Because
to
kids
do.
do damage books at times as
now
well.
the
The
thing-
clear part.
You don't want to damage your paper books, but you damage your whole nation.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the thing is, the books are there to be utilized. If they get damaged, you print another one, or, the thing is, it's all about supply and demand. But the thing is, now, I want to ask Dr. Fakhra, because you are working within a college. Okay, put the paper books aside. Let's put that aside. What are you, e-books? Now, let's talk about that. What is the college, or as a professor, what are you doing to make sure that even though the library is not somewhere desirable to go to, how are you keeping that passion alive for reading, keeping the kids interested?
I myself am a kind of writer. I write light essays and poetry, but and I keep on narrating things. I keep on suggesting books. I keep on telling them that when I read that book, it was interesting. It changed my life. It did this. It did that. E-book or any book or a paper book. It is most of the time we've made a national habit. We say this is bad for us. Like why if you won't let your students or your kids to read book or to if you won't give them access to literature especially, and you'll think they'll spoil, and then they'll get more
Okay, so it's the
spoiled.
parents aspect as well. So now,
Well, let's just move on to Ramsha first of all,
Okay.
because you wanted to ask a question.
okay, well, I'm sure that was our job, but
She forgot about it.
It just
okay, when it comes
vanished.
back, you can ask us.
Yeah,
just
but
like jump
very
in,
quickly
okay?
before we move on to that part, there's one more thing
Jump
which I
in.
wanted to talk about. And Colonel Sahab, now what you talk about was that, for example, you just mentioned that Alchemist and all of those novels weren't there. Don't you think that it's probably about time that we should probably move from conventional libraries to digital libraries as well, or a mix of both of them, so that we could actually store and have a better shelf life as well?
And also, is that feasible for the major population of Pakistan?
Yeah.
And then cloud sharing, they can be brilliant ideas.
We'll ask you in a moment.
First of all, we have to inculcate the habit of reading, and that is first responsibility of parents. This is, I am saying you as a parent.
Yeah, whose role is it? Let's start
Yeah.
that as well.
And then it is the teachers, and then it is the intelligentsia, academia like university and colleges and higher education, and most of all the media. They should promote and make the documentaries and attractive programs where kids should watch people reading.
Exactly.
And then they should hold reading sessions and televise it. And we have, when you start talking about something, it goes and stores in your mind. And this I am saying as a parent, because I used to read fiction and literature, and my children, they are, my elder son, he lives in Australia, and he took Diwan-e Ghalib with him and Mir Taqi Diwan, and still he writes me the his verses, and we share many things on the fiction. So I think it's the parents, teachers, intelligentsia, and then state. All have to take it as a crash program.
True.
Absolutely. I think I agree with you. You wanted to say you don't agree with the e-books and the...
I don't agree with ebooks, yes, because publishing or the process of publication in Pakistan is already going down.
Okay.
So that's why
Because-
ebooks are good.
No, they're
Okay.
not.
Okay.
Let me tell you, if you cannot find a book worth reading at National Book Foundation, because I have been there lately and I was about to cry
Yeah.
or shed tears. If you talk about the publication process in Pakistan, it's going down like anything, because I was working with publishing house and I'm editing several poetry journals here. People are not reading, or people are not buying books because they're expensive, because they don't want to go to bookstore, any reason.
Yeah.
That is precisely why publishers are not publishing good books, and that is precisely why we do not.
No, but this is not what my point was.
No, but the thing is that just on that point though, well, why are they so expensive? The whole point is to make it accessible.
Yes.
So it's also the publisher's fault as well.
Because they are not purchasing books.
Okay.
I am a poet myself, and I know how difficult it was to convince my publisher that publishing a poetry book, again, an English poetry book, is going to do well.
No, but this is not what my point was. My point was that, for example, there are certain books or journals or, poetry books which are not available as of now within the country anyway. So I think what we need to do is probably we should have a mix of conventional and digital libraries, which will
need
increase
to
the
make
shelf
our
life as well, and you will have the
publication-
availability
One
of each and everything over there. That's what the good
We
cause
need
is.
to make our publication industry better. Rather than digitalizing everything, we are going to
not everything,
we are going to
it's
But the
forget
thing
the
is, if you do
tradition.
that, you're going to be left behind. The whole world is doing both. We need to be doing both. We need to get books
So
good
you have
enough.
to understand the cause. The cause is that, at times you might not even get all of those authors, what you want to read. So probably if you have cloud-based sharing with another library, you can probably
Okay,
import
and
it,
another
just write
thing
it
is-
over there, or probably print it again.
And also, most books,
After
when they're
some time.
published, you have to buy them online anyway. So you kind of the author's going to benefit anyway. But let's move on to you, Humaira. What are your thoughts? Because you wanted to add something in regards
Yes,
to...
actually, I agree with Ms. Fakhra that here the problem is not that not the availability. If you want to, there is where there is a will, there is a way.
Absolutely.
So we have to inculcate the will and what, when, and where. Because I think the first 7 years is the most absorbent period, and you must have agreed this of a child. That period, if you can inculcate,
Look at us, because I can't hear you.
yeah, if you inculcate the right amount of reading habit or any kind of good habits, it lasts throughout the year.
Exactly.
And in that area, in that particular phase, student role, your teacher role, and your parents role. It's a combined effort. You can't wholly solely blame on government, on publications. You can't wholly solely go for
I think this reading
parents.
aspect has got, it's less to do with the government aspect
Yes.
because it's the parents and
It's the
everything.
parents.
However, now let's look at this because we're talking about a very small segment of society who can also read. A lot
Yeah.
of people within Pakistan can't read. Now, what about those people? What are we doing in regards to them? We have our mobile libraries, which is kind of trying to involve everyone. But what can we do more to kind of instill and, do something for those kids?
And adding
let
on
me
to
start
that,
with Naeem.
I think that's a very beautiful point, Ma, you have made. Now, for example, we are obviously talking about those people who can read, but what about those people who are visually impaired and want to read? Do we have audio libraries? Because if we are talking about libraries, or probably, we have to make it accessible for them too.
Okay.
And we have had people on the shows as well who've been visually impaired, they want to read, they've done masters, PhDs, whatnot. But it is hard for them
Okay,
again.
so let's start with the rural and then we'll
Yeah.
move on to people with living with disabilities.
State responsibility again. We have a National Institute of Handicap, and they should be given sufficient funds and purchase latest gadgets where the sight impaired people can also listen and to remain in the mainstream
I think
of
they are
society.
working on it as we did
Yeah,
our
it's
last
the
show. on
state
it.
responsibility.
British Council Library.
Sorry, yeah.
It's a state responsibility.
Okay. Now, in regards to so the rural communities should be dealt with by the state. Okay, wonderful. And how do you think that as individuals, what can we do to reach out to these kids? How can we help them?
I think the NGOs, they can do very good job in peripheral areas, and we, the schools, they sometimes they set very nice programs. They take their, even my school where I used to work, they have the small internship program.
Great.
The students, they go, they present them the books, the students who cannot afford them or any kind of disability they have.
Right.
So these are the small things. You just involve yourself, and the incentives.
Okay.
It's a human psychology. When you have small incentives in any term, so students or people, they encourage. And at that time, I just would like to add one more point, that nowadays, what you see in our lounge, is there any corner for books?
These is just the heater. Though.
It's a heater, and
I have a
beautiful,
shelf.
expensive chandeliers are there, furniture is there. But I remember always a small book corner at my place in my childhood, and this is what I am providing to my children and my student in the class. We always have a reading corner. That you are giving them option.
Yeah.
See, it is not something in the store. Okay, once upon a time I'll go there, pick up that book, dust it, and read. So it should be handy, and it should be a part of your life.
There's
like
one
a
more
food.
thing which I wanted to discuss over here, or probably share, and that is that, you know, since it is hard for people to probably afford books, so when obviously you're a reader or a writer and you have a shelf, what people do is that they want to have a bigger collection of all those books which they might have read. Why not to donate it to somebody who probably would be able to read it, or who's interested in
precious.
it, right? No, but they are, and then you can get it
books
back
you
too
can
as well.
reread. You can reread over time.
But how many times you can reread it?
I don't know. It depends how much you like it.
A point comes when where you need to give it away to others, and they are assets, but they increase if they are delivered to
Absolutely.
Khalil, what
others.
about you? Do you share your books, or do you
No,
keep
I
them
do
with you?
not. Strictly do not.
Okay.
Because people don't return.
You can give
And
books as a gift.
I think it's about
Gifts.
addiction.
Yes, as a gift
If
you can.
you
One more
have
time.
developed a hobby, you will find a book.
Okay.
There is, you will find on the footpath, go
True.
to Sadar,
True.
buy in 10 rupees.
Okay.
So,
And yes, sorry.
I think if you are able to develop and inculcate the habit of reading in the kids, they will find the books. It's
Wonderful.
not an,
Okay, and now because we have run out of time, so finally, what would be the last thing that you would recommend to all the parents or kids watching right now?
For me is I'm a strong believer that action speaks louder than words. So dear mothers, when next
And
time you
fathers.
go, and mothers because most of the time, or when you go next time to the mall, please visit bookstore as well. And if you are buying 5,000 or 6,000 suit, please buy 2,000 or 3,000
I
book.
don't even remember whether
And
there's a
if it is
bookstore in the
not
mall or
in
not.
your budget, please go
I
to
don't
the
think
old
so.
bookshop, as I do. So I think this is the same.
Dr. Fakhra.
I would add up with Humaira, and that is an appeal to government, or a suggestion that bound every institute to have one library period, so that
Every day.
It is there.
because
We used to do that in
when you teach your student to when you teach your kid or student to brush his teeth every day, and you think that repetition will make it his habit,
Yeah.
then why don't you force him to study?
And also, you know the consequences of not brushing your teeth, so people should know the consequences of not
Not
reading.
reading as well.
Col Naeem.
So as a citizen, make is a buzzword when you when you meet a youngster. What book did you read last time?
Yeah.
And when did you read it?
Okay.
And if answer is negative, give your one book for him to read.
Wonderful
This is
idea.
what you can do.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Well, yes, as an individual or as a teacher or a poet, I can do the same. I can suggest a good book, or I can ask what book.
But what would you tell the parents to do?
Again, it's a collective effort. We cannot say that parents should do this.
Okay.
There is parent part, there is a government part, there is a teacher part, there is a
Okay.
poet's part. Everyone has to play its role.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. It was a very interesting conversation. But I just have a few points that I picked up
Sure,
during
go
the
ahead.
show. So basically, the media's role is to also, promote reading and literature. So within PTV World, we also have the classic show where we highlight literature from different countries, even within Pakistan as well. So you do have that aspect. And then also, I remember shows used to have a section where they would do the book of the week. And we are going to be starting that at some point soon. We have been discussing that as
And
well.
then we have even had shows where people used to read books and then explain that, what has been written.
And the thing is, I really liked Dr. Fakhra's point and Col Naeem's point that, it's become, what can I get out of reading? It's not about getting out of it. You will get peace of mind, you will get better vocabulary, and it's really good to just have some time to yourself.
And just imagine that, if you've got so much time to probably go and eat fish probably in the restaurant, just read a book alongside it if you do not have anybody else around.
Just so with. And also before you sleep, 10 minutes, read a book. It feels so good.
And there's one last thing which I wanted to mention over here, and that is that, quite a lot of people, they think it's cool that, as soon as they're going to see you, oh, I'm reading this book and whatnot. And if by chance you've read it and you start asking them questions, turns out that they haven't even read it. It's just the name they know. So please make sure that you're not discussing books just to be on the cooler side.
And if you do want to discuss books, read it and discuss it. But on that note, do log on to our Facebook fan page,
Which is with the name of World This Morning.
our Twitter page,
World This Morning with RDG.
our Daily Motion and YouTube
World
page.
This Morning once again.
And the repeat is at
5:11 p.m.
Have a wonderful day, and we will see you bright and early.
Till the next time, 1, 2, 3.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Thank you very much.